Okay, so you want to own a self-serve car rental fleet. You buy a few cars, park them somewhere convenient, put a smart lock on the doors, list them on an app, and let strangers rent them while you sleep. Sounds almost too easy, and technically it is. But here's the part nobody puts in the TikTok video. In 2025, Avis Budget Group generated about $11.7 billion in revenue from roughly 684,000 vehicles worldwide and completed around 38 million rental transactions. That's almost $32 million in rental revenue every single day. And that's a company operating at enormous scale. You don't have 684,000 cars. You probably don't even have 20. You have 5. And that difference changes everything. Because a car rental fleet isn't really a car business. It's a utilization business. Your car is an asset that loses value whether somebody rents it or not. The payment doesn't care if the car sits in your driveway for 6 days. The insurance doesn't care. Depreciation definitely doesn't care. Only the customer cares. So, understand utilization and you understand this business. Miss it? And you can build a fleet that generates 6 figures in revenue while quietly losing money. The reason this business exists is pretty simple. People need cars, but they don't always want to own them. Maybe they're flying into a city for 4 days. Maybe their own car is in the shop. Maybe they're visiting family. Maybe they're 22 years old and can't justify a $50,000 purchase. Or maybe they just need an SUV for a weekend and don't want another monthly payment sitting in their bank account. And the interesting part is that the customer isn't really buying a car. They're buying access. That's the fundamental economic shift behind modern car sharing. A traditional rental company owns the fleet, operates rental locations, employs staff, manages the paperwork, and handles the customer directly. A self-serve fleet tries to remove as much of that infrastructure as possible. The customer finds the car through an app, they verify their identity. They unlock the vehicle remotely, they drive it, they return it, and software handles much of the transaction. That's why platforms such as Turo became interesting to small fleet operators. Instead of building your own booking website, payment system, customer acquisition engine, and identity verification infrastructure, you can plug into an existing marketplace. But there's a catch. You don't own the customer relationship, and that matters. Because the platform can change fees, it can change protection products, it can change search rankings, it can change pricing rules, and suddenly the economics of your fleet can change without you buying a single new car. We've already seen hosts publicly report how dramatically fleet economics can vary. One 20-car operator reported roughly $380,000 in revenue in 2024, but expected less than $200,000 in 2025 after business conditions changed. That's not proof of what every fleet will earn, but it illustrates the volatility you are dealing with. So what kind of fleet are you actually building? Because not all car rental businesses are the same. At one end, you have economy cars. Toyota Corollas, Honda Civics, Nissan Sentras. These are boring. And boring is exactly what you want. They usually have lower purchase prices, lower repair costs, cheaper tires, and a much larger potential customer base. You might charge somewhere around $35 to $60 a day, depending on location, vehicle age, season, and platform. The downside is that your gross revenue per vehicle is limited. Then you have SUVs and crossovers. Think RAV4s, CRVs, Highlanders, or similar vehicles. Now you're potentially charging $50 to $100 or more per day. Families want them. Airport travelers want them. People going on road trips want them, but your acquisition cost is higher. Your tires cost more, your brakes cost more, and when something breaks, the invoice gets bigger. Then you have specialty vehicles, luxury cars, convertibles, performance cars, Tesla models, Jeep Wranglers. These can command $100, $150, sometimes $200 plus per day in the right market. And this is where the Instagram fantasy begins. You see a $180 daily rate and think, I'm going to make $5,400 a month with one car. Except the car isn't booked 30 days a month. It might be booked 18 days, or 12, or 7, and your Lamborghini doesn't stop depreciating just because nobody rented it Tuesday. Finally, you have the long-term or monthly rental model. This is less glamorous, but potentially more predictable. Instead of chasing 3-day bookings, you might rent a vehicle for several weeks or months. You sacrifice some daily rate in exchange for lower turnover, fewer cleanings, fewer handoffs, and potentially more predictable utilization. So, which one is best? The answer depends on your market. But there's one number you should obsess over: utilization, not revenue. Utilization. Because imagine you own 5 cars. Each car could theoretically generate 30 rental days per month. That's 150 available rental days. If you rent 60 of them, you're at 40% utilization. If you rent 105 days, you're at 70%. That difference sounds small. It isn't. Let's say each car produces an average realized rental rate of $60 per booked day. At 40% utilization, 5 cars generate 150 available days times 40% equals 60 booked days. 60 times $60 gives you $3,600 in monthly gross rental revenue. Now push utilization to 70%. 150 available days times 70% equals 105 booked days. 105 times $60 gives you $6,300. You didn't buy another car. You didn't double your advertising budget. You didn't build another parking lot. You simply got more of the existing asset working. And your fixed costs barely moved. That's why utilization is so powerful. Suppose those 5 cars cost you $2,750 a month in loan payments, insurance, parking, software, and other fixed overhead. At $3,600 in revenue, you're left with only $850 before variable costs, maintenance, cleaning, damage reserves, platform fees, and depreciation. At $6,300, you're sitting on $3,550 before those same variable costs. That extra rental day isn't costing you another $60. The car already exists, the insurance already exists, the parking space already exists. That's the entire game. You are trying to squeeze more productive days out of an expensive asset. And here's where 2026 gets interesting. Cars aren't cheap. The average used vehicle listing price reached $27,027 in June 2026, up about 6% from a year earlier. New vehicles were averaging nearly $49,758. So let's say you decide to build a modest 5-car fleet. You don't start with 5 brand new luxury SUVs. You buy 5 reliable used vehicles at $22,000 each. That's $110,000. Now you're thinking, I'll finance them. Fine. But financing doesn't make the cars cheaper. It just moves the cost into monthly payments. And in August 2026, average auto loan rates were around 7%, with the best qualified borrowers sometimes getting below 5%. At roughly 7% over 5 years, a $22,000 vehicle financed almost completely is around $436 a month. 5 vehicles? About $2,180 a month. And that's before insurance, before registration, before parking, before maintenance, before tires, before cleaning, before telematics, before damage, before depreciation, before the platform takes its share. Now you need somewhere to keep the cars. And this is where the passive income story starts falling apart. You need secure parking. You want easy access to major roads. You want proximity to airports, hotels, downtown areas, universities, or neighborhoods with limited car ownership. You want somewhere customers can reach without needing you to hand them the keys. And you want a location where local rules actually allow what you're doing. Because a driveway isn't automatically a commercial rental facility. Your city may have zoning rules. Your lease may prohibit commercial vehicle storage. Your HOA may prohibit it. Your insurance company may require specific commercial coverage, and your lender may have restrictions on using a financed vehicle for commercial rental activity. That last one is especially important. You can't assume that because a bank will finance your car, the bank is happy for you to rent that car to strangers every weekend. The insurance question is even bigger. Your personal auto policy is generally not something you should casually assume will cover a vehicle being rented commercially to strangers. You need to structure the insurance correctly, and commercial rental coverage can completely change your cost model. This is one of those businesses where the legal paperwork can destroy the spreadsheet you built in your bedroom. Then there's the hardware. You want remote access. That might mean a telematics device, GPS tracking, remote lock hardware, dash cameras, and a system that allows you to monitor mileage, location, battery voltage, and sometimes vehicle health. Depending on your setup, you could easily spend several $100s per vehicle getting the technology installed and configured. Then you need cleaning equipment, you need spare keys, you need jump starters, you need tire inflators, you need emergency supplies, and eventually, you need somebody to move cars. Because imagine this. A customer returns a car at 9 a.m. Another customer is picking it up at 11 a.m. The vehicle is dirty. The fuel is low. The previous customer drove it 400 miles. Now you have 2 hours. That isn't passive income, that's logistics. And logistics becomes increasingly expensive as you scale. Let's build the actual 5-car operation. 5 used vehicles at $22,000 each. That's $110,000 in vehicle value. Suppose you put 20% down. That's $22,000 in cash. Add roughly $1,500 per vehicle for taxes, registration, dealer fees, inspection, and initial setup. That's another $7,500. Add $1,000 per vehicle for initial tracking, remote access hardware, cameras, and installation. Another $5,000. Now give yourself $8,000 for parking deposits, security improvements, cleaning equipment, tools, spare keys, website and software setup, and miscellaneous startup costs. You're already around $42,500 in cash, and you don't own the cars outright. You still owe roughly $88,000. Now add a working capital reserve, at least $10,000 to $20,000, because eventually something will happen. A transmission fails, a customer damages a wheel, a vehicle gets towed, a claim gets disputed, a booking cancels. Your best performing car sits in a repair shop for 3 weeks. If you start with exactly enough money to buy the cars, you're not starting a business. You're starting a countdown to your first emergency. So let's say your 5-car fleet generates that $6,300 a month we calculated earlier. Sounds great. But now reality starts taking bites. Platform fees reduce what you actually receive. Insurance might consume hundreds of dollars per vehicle every month, depending on your structure, driver profile, vehicle, location, and coverage. Cleaning might cost $15 to $40 per turnover if you're doing it yourself, or considerably more if you're outsourcing it. Maintenance reserves might average $100 to $250 or more per vehicle per month over the long run, depending on mileage and age. And then there's depreciation. This is the silent killer. You can look at your bank account and see $30,000 of cash flow and still be losing money economically because your cars are worth less than they were when you bought them. A rental car gets driven hard. If a personal car travels 12,000 miles a year, your rental car might accumulate 25,000, 30,000, or even 40,000 miles. And every mile affects resale value. So your real profit isn't revenue minus car payments. It's revenue minus every cost of keeping the asset productive, including the economic cost of wearing the asset out. That's why the difference between a smart fleet owner and a person with 5 cars on an app can be enormous. The smart owner knows what each vehicle earns per available day, they know the average booking length, they know cleaning cost per trip, they know maintenance cost per mile, they know depreciation per mile, they know their cancellation rate, they know their damage rate, they know which cars make money, and they sell the bad cars fast. Because one of the biggest mistakes you can make is becoming emotionally attached to the fleet. Maybe you love your 2019 BMW. Your customers don't care. If that BMW produces $1,200 a month in gross revenue but costs $1,050 in payment, insurance, maintenance, depreciation, and platform-related expenses, you don't have a luxury rental business. You have a very expensive hobby. The large operators solve this problem differently. A company like Avis Budget can spread purchasing, financing, maintenance, technology, insurance, fleet disposal, and management across hundreds of thousands of vehicles. In 2025, Avis Budget's global fleet averaged approximately 684,000 vehicles. You can't compete with that scale. And you shouldn't try. Your advantage is flexibility. You can operate 5 cars in a neighborhood the giant rental companies don't care about. You can specialize, maybe airport overflow, maybe replacement vehicles, maybe family SUVs, maybe affordable cars for visitors, maybe vehicles that are difficult to find in your city. That's where a small fleet can win. But the risk is still brutal. Interest rates can rise. Used car prices can fall. Insurance can spike. Repair costs can explode. A platform can change its rules. A city can tighten regulations. A vehicle can get totaled. And one bad financing decision can lock you into a car that loses money every month. So should you actually do it? If you're looking for completely passive income, no. Absolutely not. A self-serve rental fleet is not a vending machine that happens to have 4 wheels. It's an asset-heavy logistics business disguised as an app business. But if you understand cars, financing, local demand, insurance, pricing, and operations, it can become interesting. Start with 1 or 2 vehicles, prove the economics, track every dollar, track every mile. Find out what customers actually want in your market. Then add vehicles only when the existing ones are consistently producing acceptable returns. Because buying 10 cars and hoping customers appear is not a strategy. It's a $200,000 experiment. The real business isn't owning cars. The real business is turning depreciating assets into productive assets, often enough to outrun depreciation, financing, insurance, maintenance, and downtime. And that's the paradox. The car sitting in your driveway looks like an asset, but until somebody rents it, it's mostly a liability with wheels. So, if you remember one thing, remember this. You don't make money because you own a fleet. You make money because your fleet is moving, and the moment your cars stop moving, your money starts disappearing.